Folks, earlier we talked about how Republicans are doing all they can to suppress the vote. We talked about what happened in Texas, but we see what's happening in Georgia. Greg Palast, the investigative reporter, has a new documentary. It is called Vigilantes Inc, America's New Vote Suppression Hitmen. It's narrated by Rosario Dawson and produced by Martin Sheen. It is about the latest attacks on the right to vote. Here is a sneak peek.
You're telling me 2,600 miles away, 2 days for an election, that if I want to vote, all I have to do is show up and prove as an American citizen that I have the right to vote again?
Is this an attempt to remove a lot of Democrats, black people from voting to win the election?
I am far from that, sir, and you have crossed the line.
And today to come out and not be able to vote and no one can give you an explanation, like, it's extremely emotional and it bothers me. It bothers me to my core.
Greg joins us now from Los Angeles. Greg, glad to have you here. So, I mean, you really spent a lot of time in Georgia looking at what's going on in that particular state and all of the ways that they are doing all they can to, frankly, steal the 2024 election. They are scared to death of losing Georgia again, and Republicans are hell-bent in that state and others to ensure they do not lose.
Oh, yeah. So here's the new deal. The reason it's called Vigilantes Inc. is that's the name that the Ku Klux Klan incorporated under. But now, and they came up with these vigilante attacks in 1946, where individuals are challenging voters, black voters, saying they shouldn't be allowed to vote. That was considered illegal in 46, but they brought it back. Donald Trump brought it back with his cronies in 2020. But they only had 88 vigilantes and only in one state, Georgia. But those 88 vigilantes, you heard that woman throwing me out. You heard when I asked her, is this an attempt to remove black voters, Democrats, from the voter rolls? And that woman personally, are you ready for this, Roland? She personally challenged 32,000 voters. She's a Republican Party official, and she challenged 32,000 voters in Cobb County, Georgia alone.
So what they did was by changing the law, they allowed one individual to literally challenge thousands of people. No standing, no requirement. They could just come up and make an allegation, and all of a sudden you're screwed.
Yes, and one of the people that was screwed, as you say, you heard of, and so those of you watching, that was Major Gamaliel Turner. He's America's expert on warfare of the future. He's from Columbus, Fort Benning, Georgia. He was assigned by the military to Fort Hueneme, California, and the Republican Party chairman in southern Georgia challenged his right to vote because they said, well, he doesn't live in Georgia anymore. He's in California. This vigilante Republican official, remember, this is not a government official, this is a Republican Party official. And this Republican Party official challenged Major Turner and 4,000 other black soldiers. Can you imagine? Black soldiers assigned to Afghanistan, black soldiers assigned to Germany and California.
But I thought they loved the military.
Oh, they love the military. If you're white military, if you're Republican military. But remember, the military has an awful lot of African Americans and people of color. So they challenge these people because they know that the military doesn't love Trump. You know, this is the guy who said, you know, the guys in the military graveyards are just a bunch of losers. No, they don't like him. And so they took away Major Turner's vote. And you heard him say, so he calls up now again, this is not government. It's as if Greg Palast said, oh, Roland Martin doesn't live wherever you live in your state, I don't know, D.C. or wherever. Roland Martin doesn't live there. Don't let him vote. But they're not doing it with one voter where they fill out a form. They're sending in emails with lists of thousands of voters. So this guy sent in a list of 4,000 black soldiers, blocked them from getting their vote. The major calls from California, says, where's my vote? Where's my ballot? My absentee ballot? He said, oh, no, you've been challenged, Mr. Turner. So if you want to get your ballot, all you have to do is fly 2,600 miles to our office and prove you're an American citizen. What? White voters didn't have to do this. And it was 180,000 voters. And by the way, Major Turner, as you'll see in my film, Major Turner does go to Georgia. And he brings, so he flies 5,000 miles round trip. And he also brings in a voting rights attorney, Mark Elias, who's now Kamala Harris's voting rights specialist. And he got his vote back. He had to go to federal court. Imagine he had to drive, go 5,000 miles round trip, go to federal court. His vote was restored, but you know, the judge would not allow the other 4,000 black men to get their votes. The 32,000 votes, we were able to block that lady because people saw my film, Vigilantes Inc. And the elections board, even the Republicans said, we're not going to accept this stuff. But now it's getting worse. So here's the danger, Roland. Now, again, my film is called Vigilantes Inc. And I want to mention something very, very quickly. You can actually stream the film starting today for free if you go to saveyourvote.org. And thank you very much to Jamie Foxx and Leonardo DiCaprio and George DiCaprio, my producer, one of my producers, who is saying, you can go to gregpalast.com, gregpalast.com, and download the film for free, or saveyourvote.org. And they've made it available for free streaming. Send around the link. And by the way, if you go to saveyourvote.org, we show you how to check your registration. We show you we give you the phone numbers in case you need lawyers when you're at the polling station and you find out you've been challenged. We're going to help you get through this. We got to fight it back. I'm working with Black Voters Matter, with the Reverend Jesse Jackson, who I spoke to this morning, Martin Sheen, NAACP. We're not standing here letting these vigilantes pick our president rather than the voters.
Question for the panelists. Kwame, you're first.
You know, when I look at this incident, one, I want to give you a lot of commendation for making this movie come together. But I've also looked at some of the stats where they say basically the people of color represent around 30% of the electorate, but we only cast about 22% of the actual ballots. So if we have that gap of about 8%, what do you think that's driven by? Is this driven by all the things you highlighted in your movie, or do you see more?
Yes, absolutely. When we say that there was a lower turnout amongst minority voters, especially black voters, it's not that they're not trying to vote. Did you know that, you go in, you've been challenged or you've been purged, and they hand you something called a provisional ballot. I call it a placebo ballot. They make you think you voted, but you haven't. According to the United States government, 2.7 million provisional ballots were thrown out, rejected in the last presidential election. 2.7 million ballots. And dig this, if you're black, the chance your provisional ballot won't be counted is 700% higher than if you're white. 500% higher if you're Hispanic than if you're white. So so black people are trying to vote, but they show up and, like Major Turner, you don't get your ballot because someone's challenged you. You've been purged. And at the end of that little clip, we had a woman, an African-American young woman in tears. You know why? Because her grandmother had been voting in the same polling station for 50 years. Shows up and they say, you can't vote here. You're not on the voter rolls anymore because you don't live in Georgia anymore. I went to her house.
If you had to offer one solution to that, what do you think we can focus on like a laser between now and the election? What do you think that one thing that we can work on if you want to make a recommendation to the audience?
Absolutely. We have to stop the vigilante. Like Kamala Harris's voter protection person says, the number one threat in this year, brand new, is this massive vigilante voter attack. In Georgia, they took it out for a test drive in Georgia in 2020, and they had 88 vigilantes. The group the Trump group that's behind this, True the Vote, they've gone from 88 vigilantes. Are you ready for this? They've signed up 40,000 vigilantes. They've already, as of 5 weeks ago, they challenged 832,000 voters. This story is not being covered, and that's why Harris and Elias are losing their minds. Actually, Reverend Jackson was talking with Kamala Harris about this on Saturday and talking about our film. So we're using the film as a weapon. It's not a movie, it's a movement. I just got a message from the head of the NAACP in Georgia, Gerald Griggs, that we're going to be showing the movie and using that as a basis for a planning discussion of the voting rights leadership, not only in Georgia, but I'm going to Houston. I'm going to be in other cities, but most important is to get this thing out for people to see the film, pass it around, and learn how to protect yourself.
Candace,
there's going to be a million challenges.
Candace.
I understand that this is a film that takes a look at two families. Who are these two families that you explore in the film, and how does it unfold?
Well, you saw Major Gamaliel Turner, the military expert. They picked on the wrong guy because his father, Harold Turner, with Ralph Abernathy and Martin Luther King, founded the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. They picked a major voting rights, civil rights family of Georgia when they picked on Major Turner. So we follow him versus the guys who really set him up. That is Governor Brian Kemp of Georgia. And Kemp is behind all this vote suppression trickery. And in fact, now his family, they call themselves Kemp now, but they used to be called Habersham. He doesn't like to use that name. You know why? Because it was his family. It was the current governor's family who first brought enslaved Africans to Georgia. Slavery was against the law in Georgia until just before the American Revolution. And the Kemp's family got a special dispensation to bring in slaves from King George III. And that started the whole plantation enslavement system in the South. Was started by his family. And the source of this guy's many millions is literally taken off the backs of black people.
Scott?
Hey, thank you so much for your movie. I'm going to put my law hat on, my legal hat. I know Mark Elias, he does great work. But if I'm in Georgia and I've been taken off the voter rolls, don't I have some due process rights? Doesn't the state have to give me notice of that and give me an opportunity to respond and to be heard and to cross-examine whoever's challenging my ballot? And wherever I am, I understand California, but let's say I'm in Georgia. I mean, they don't just throw me off the ballot because of a challenge, or am I just being naive here with this?
Well, I wouldn't say you're naive. You have to know Georgia. Oh boy, and some of these other states. And so they're supposed to send you a postcard, but it looks like junk mail. You've been challenged. But listen, unlike if you got challenged by the government, all you have to do is send back a postcard or call them up and make a contact, and you're back on the rolls. But when you're challenged by a vigilante under Georgia state law and other southern state laws, especially in Arizona and other places, you have to physically go into the office and prove you are an American citizen and you live where you live. So you have all these absent black students, you have black soldiers, you have all these people who are temporarily moved, especially this was during COVID the last time. And you have to actually go into that office and prove you are who you are.
What do I have to show them? What do I have to show them? Birth certificate, voting registration card, what?
You have to show them that you're a citizen and that you live where you live. But the problem is people don't even know about these cards. A lot of people never get the cards or never see them, and they don't know they've been challenged, so they don't get their ballots. Or even worse, most Georgians who were challenged got their ballots, but when they mailed in their ballots, they weren't counted, and those people don't even know it. It's really horrific, and it's spread to 43 states, but mostly the battleground states. Trump is working on the battleground states.
Well,
real quick, real quick, the certification of the vote after November 5th in Georgia is now discretionary. It's not ministerial. Yes. Can you comment on that change in the law and how you believe the Republicans are going to try to undermine the elections now that it's discretionary?
Well, in Vigilantes Inc., which again you get for free at saveyourvote.org, Vigilantes Inc., I actually have Helen Butler, who was on the elections board, and she talked about the need to certify the vote. They try to pressure her not to certify the vote. And she said, I won't go along with it. So the governor used his new authority to simply remove her from her elections board. And she said, this is a real danger. People, if you don't know what certification means, it's a fancy legal term. But what it means is that once you have the vote, someone has to say, yes, this is the correct vote, the county elections board. And then it goes to the state elections board, and they certified it. Now, the current Republican, not just Republican, the MAGA-controlled elections board has already said that they may not certify the vote in Fulton County. Understand, Fulton County is Atlanta.
Yep.
Last time, Joe Biden won Fulton County by 250,000 votes. If they don't certify Fulton, Georgia's gone. Georgia's gone.
Well, those are the games that they're playing, and so listen. Lawyers are going to be very busy because Republicans are going to be continuing to do this all across the country. Folks, you want to check the film out, Vigilantes Inc., go to gregpalast.com, GREGPALAST.com. You can also go check it out on the other site. Go ahead and tell us what it is, Greg.
Yep. Save Your Vote, not Save My Vote, not Save Roland's Vote, but SaveYourVote.org, and you can not only download or stream the film, but you can check your registration there and get other help and advice.
All right.
Thank you, Roland.
Great.
You're doing God's work here, man.
We appreciate it. Keep up the good work. Thanks a lot.
In 2016, Donald Trump said he would choose only the best people to work in his White House. Now those people have a warning for America. Trump is not fit to be president again. Here's his vice president.
Anyone who puts himself over the Constitution should never be president of the United States. It should come as no surprise that I will not be endorsing Donald Trump this year.
His defense secretary.
Do you think Trump can be trusted with the nation's secrets ever again?
No. I mean, it's just irresponsible action that places our service members at risk, places our nation's security at risk.
His national security advisor.
Donald Trump will cause a lot of damage. The only thing he cares about is Donald Trump.
And the nation's highest-ranking military officer.
We don't take an oath to a king or a queen or to a tyrant or a dictator. And we don't take an oath to a wannabe dictator.
Take it from the people who knew him best. Donald Trump is a danger to our troops and our democracy. We can't let him lead our country again.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.